Welcome to this tactical analysis of the Chelsea versus West Ham United fixture in the Women's Super League. Firstly, I think it's important to mention that both teams are missing key players. Obviously, Chelsea, the likes of Sam Kerr and Soyunchi, as well as with West Ham United, given the style that they play, Bryn Jastatir as well as a big miss for them. Before we get into the analysis, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, consider sharing it on social media and subscribing. And with that, let's get into it. So key thing to start off with Chelsea's build-up was the importance of Berger's distribution, especially against West Ham's intense press on Chelsea passbacks, as well as also their man marking. But in this scenario, we have West Ham's right wing back Longhurst looking to try and press Chelsea whilst they're trying to set up deep. And then you also have her here supported by, in this case, Evans, but it can be Walker as well. Chelsea actually want this because with this press, it actually leaves space in behind this wing back for Chelsea to try and exploit. So they're going to use the fact that Ann-Katrin Berger's distribution is really good to get beyond this intense press and exploit the spaces behind the press. As mentioned, the ball is circulated back to Ann-Katrin Berger. She plays it forwards, in this case centrally, but she had an inclination towards the left hand side where you'd have the forwards for Chelsea. At this point, they've made a substitution, so they brought on England in the second half to replace Guro Reiten, and then the three of England, Kirby and Harder constantly looking to try and make runs in behind after these long balls to try and exploit just how high the defensive line of West Ham United were after they pressed. This was a good means of Chelsea forcing West Ham to retreat, but I have to point out Sissoko, who's really good at helping West Ham deflect these long balls from Ann-Katrin Berger. She was really good at being able to track any of the runners of Chelsea, so whether it's Kirby, Harder, England, she was quick enough and clever enough to track and follow those movements. Unfortunately, on this occasion for Chelsea, the play breaks down with England trying to keep momentum for Chelsea going forwards, trying to play Kerr in early, but the ball's intercepted. Helpful to see here Fleming trying to support their attack as well. So earlier in the game, during the first half, when Chelsea were playing more of a 4-3-2-1, and you had Cuthbert and Fleming as those wide centre midfielders, they would try and support the attack with these deep runs from wider than normal wide centre midfield positions, looking to hopefully exploit that space between the lines, given that 5-3-2 shape of West Ham United. Okay, so another scenario that again I think exemplifies Ann-Katrin Berger's distribution again in the second half. I think by far her distribution was pivotal in the second half. We've got West Ham United trying to use Longhurst, one of their wing backs, trying to use their width. Obviously in both cases, Longhurst and Svitkova are really key to the way that West Ham play, in that it allows them to be able to go around typically the opposing team. Except in this game, often the wing backs for West Ham were looking to maybe drive down outside, especially more Svitkova, and then they were looking to try and combine with someone centrally, so they would drive down the outside, and then due to that, at least in the first half, Christmas tree shape, the 4-3-2-1 of Chelsea, there were spaces between the lines for the likes of Snurler or Wine to be able to pick up the ball and try and play in the likes of Walker or maybe Evans. Unfortunately, on this occasion, Longhurst plays the ball out into this channel, which was typically the West Ham United go-to. They're looking to try and get one of Evans or Walker running into the space behind the aggressive Chelsea fullbacks. Unfortunately for West Ham United, the ball is too long and Nguyen is able to easily clean this up and circulate the ball back to Berger. And despite pressure from those forwards, so in this case Evans or Walker, Katrin Berger is able to release the ball, play it long beyond this press, and now hopefully get those forwards of Chelsea running at the back line of West Ham. So again, it benefits them that West Ham have pressed. Quick note on this, playing it into the channels for the runners for West Ham United. There's obviously benefits in that on occasions they were able to win, throw-ins or such from Chelsea, but as the game progressed, those balls into the channels for chasers, for Walker and Evans to try and run down, typically just led to giving the ball to Chelsea rather than becoming any sort of a threat at the Chelsea goal. So just as in the previous scenario, we've got a long ball from Ann-Katrin Berger, and then Kirby was able to take a really nice touch centrally and then drive outside into this left-hand space. And off her, we've got both England and also Harder in those wide spaces in central space on the left-hand side, looking to try and take advantage of West Ham United's high line again. And then one of those wide centre midfielders for Chelsea, so initially it was Cuthbert and Reiten, looking to try and support this attack, try and make a driving run from their wide centre midfield positions to support this attack. Just as with the previous attack, Chelsea are looking to try and maintain momentum, which is key when you're playing against a back five. You want to try and get them before they can set up and plug up all those gaps with all their defensive numbers. And we see that here with the runs by England as well as also by Kirby. This was a really nice piece of play because you've got Harder kind of slowing it down a little bit as she doesn't really see any great attacking position or advantage opening up for Chelsea, but she sees Cuthbert running from out to in and tries to combine with her. Unfortunately, Cuthbert's touch isn't perfect in this quite contested space. Although West Ham are able to win the ball back, Chelsea's pressing in the second half, which is exemplified here by the counter pressing of Cuthbert, makes it really difficult for Parker on this occasion to be able to really pick her head up and get West Ham moving in any sort of composed manner. And so Cuthbert forces Parker into playing a ball down the line again, looking for chasers, but the ball is covered by Nguyen and it's easily regained by Chelsea. Okay, so we just talked about Catherine Berger's distribution. It was a 2-1 deep, so they had their fullbacks really push high, try and pin West Ham back, create a little bit of breathing room for those players in the deep build-up unit, so the two centre-backs in Brighton Nguyen, goalkeeper, and Ingle. And now we have an example of the fullbacks of Chelsea, at least near side, supporting the attack and helping with counter-pressing. Chelsea just had the ball in the central space. Harder was kind of bundled to the ground. There was a slight penalty kick claim. And now Svitkova is looking to try and get to this clearance on West Ham United's left-hand side. But Cuthbert, as she did all game, was right on top of the West Ham players and looking to try and put pressure. And as Svitkova tries to clear the ball up the line, Liam Charles, the right back, is there to immediately step in, cut out the pass and regain possession for Chelsea, and then hopefully move into attacking position, which is especially helpful given this is just a transition from West Ham getting the ball back to now Chelsea getting the ball back, and Chelsea will still have numbers in the box. So this kind of front foot counter pressing from the fullbacks, at least near side, and then looking to try and get into some sort of crossing or cutback position was key for Chelsea. As mentioned, you end up with Liam Charles driving as she would want, given she's more of really a winger than a right back, into that right hand space. You've got Kirby following up the play with Harder in the box as the centre forward and Fleming in more like a right forward position. The ball is played inside and Kirby is able to drive towards the edge of the box and then whip across far side. Kirby tries to hit Guru Wrighton, who's playing as that left centre mid, but as I said, when Chelsea are in attack, they're looking to either drive inside and support the attack or potentially drive outside and provide crosses from their flank. So Cuthbert providing a cross from the right hand side and Wrighton from the left hand side. Unfortunately on this occasion the ball is too long, but this gives you a good idea of how the Chelsea fullbacks were trying to be aggressive, trying to support the attack, at least near side. Okay, so this is another scenario that kind of captures all the elements we've talked about: counter pressing, aggressive fullback near side, dynamic running by the forwards of Chelsea. We just had a throw in by West Ham and Ingle has strepped across the West Ham United forward to regain possession, and then from there she's able to play it down the line into Harder, who then looks to try and combine with England, who's making a bursting run trying to get this counter attack going. Given this was West Ham's throw in, they're not set up for this transition to a Chelsea counter attack, and we see Beth England escape down this left hand side. West Ham are able to get numbers back, but Harder is able to pick up this little pocket of space. Again, we're talking about this left hand side, we're talking about Chelsea forwards combining, using their dynamism to try and force West Ham into retreating and get into a good attacking position. Chelsea choose to rotate the ball back here to Anderson, the left back, and then into Ingle centrally, with England looking to try and get back into that centre forward position, given that they've now managed to push West Ham United back into a defensive shape. So Anderson's pass into Ingle, she's then able to slide the ball into Harder, who has a nice little shimmy in this little pocket of space. And then I think it's good to note here first, the fullback that we mentioned, near side fullback, trying to get involved, trying to get into a crossing position, but then also the movement of the forwards of Chelsea ahead of the ball carrier. So we've got Kirby making a run from right to left, as well as England making one from left to right, to cause confusion for these West Ham United centre-backs. Unfortunately for Chelsea, Harder drives into Wine's path and she's able to win the ball back. Here we can see the counter-pressing for Chelsea starting again. We see it with Ingle, but then also with that full-back, the left-back in Anderson, coming from that crossing position she was looking to get into, into more of a counter-pressing position now. Just as we showed with the previous example, this makes it difficult for West Ham United, especially in the second half, to be able to build up with any sort of composure. This counter-pressing only increased in intensity as the game wore on, with the substitutions and change in shape. So moving from that 4-3-2-1 Christmas tree to more of a 4-1-4-1 with Ingle at CDM, and then ahead of her you had Cuthbert and Drew Spence as those, I guess, centre attacking midfielders, but more of, you know, counter-pressing midfielders really. So that as soon as Chelsea lost the ball, those two were just on West Ham United, forcing them into long balls, as we see in this example in the 85th minute. With that, let's move on to West Ham United and how they try to attack. Of course, we mentioned that key aspect of their attack is missing in Brent Just Tier, but they still have the width being provided by Svitkova and Longhurst, who they want to use in as high and wide a position as possible to try and allow easy switches of play, typically along the back, and then for them to be able to either cross or be able to pass incisively inside to the West Ham United centre midfielders. So in this scenario, we see West Ham play the ball out quickly to Svitkova on this left hand side, and this is the 4-3-2-1 that we mentioned with Chelsea. So we've got Cuthbert as your right centre midfielder, you've got Reiten as your left centre midfielder, with Fleming in this inside right CAM, and then you have Kirby or Harder in this left CAM position. This shape by Chelsea is what allowed there to be a little bit more space for those centre midfielders of West Ham United to be able to try and attack and combine with those wing backs, at least initially in the first half. Fortunately here, Svitkova gets the ball, she's being pressured by Cuthbert, and she tries to play the ball inside but gets it just wrong, and she can't get the ball into Snurler here. Instead, Ingle is able to intercept, and then Chelsea look to clear the ball up the line versus the West Ham United pressure. This isn't just a clearance but an attempted long ball. With here you've got Kirby as the centre forward, with Fleming looking to try and make a counter-attacking run beyond her, and Harder looking to try and support. And as mentioned earlier in the video, we've got those wide centre midfielders in this 4-3-2-1 for Chelsea. So Cuthbert, and in this case Guru Reiten, looking to try and support this counter-attack as well. Unfortunately for Kirby here, the ball just bounced just before her, so it gave Sissoko, who had tracked Kirby dropping, the opportunity to be able to nip in as the ball bounces up and look to try and get West Ham back on attack. So Sissoko on this occasion does really well. She's able to play the ball into Wine, and then from there they try and use the fact that they have an overload in this left hand space to create a crossing opportunity for their forwards and the centre midfielders they now have committed to this attack. Unfortunately, it doesn't come to much, but with that we move on to how West Ham United tried to adapt or try and bring a different dimension to their build-up by bringing on Stringer. So Stringer is a CDM, and she was looking to try and be a deep-lying playmaker and just relieve a bit of the pressure from Chelsea's pressure high up the pitch when West Ham United were looking to try and build up from deep. So on this occasion, West Ham United are being forced to pass back by the Chelsea pressure, and they look to try and do what they've done for most of the game, hit the ball long for Evans and Walker to chase, but the ball is almost immediately returned by Jess Carter, and then from there West Ham United in their 3-2 or 3-1 setup. At this point it's 3-2, look to try and build up from deep. Unfortunately for West Ham United, Chelsea are looking to give West Ham some of their own medicine. So in the first half and throughout most of the game actually, West Ham were trying to man mark and press really intensely. So now you've got that here with Chelsea. You see it one with Harder here, staying quite close to Parker. But then you also have that with England tracking Sissoko. You've got Cuthbert tracking Stringer as well. And this pressure forces a pass back to Leet. With a little bit of nice movement here by the West Ham United centre-backs. Sissoko drawing Beth England away. That creates space for Stringer to be able to drop into this, right centre-back position without pressure from Cuthbert, and then from there look to try and build up in a more composed fashion. From this deeper position, Stringer's able to string a pass into Wine, and from there they try and play it out into the wide spaces and switch the ball from left wing back to right wing back. Unfortunately, it doesn't come off, but this is an example of how West Ham United look to try and use String as a deeper lying playmaker to try and relieve some of the pressure from the 4-1-4-1 Chelsea press. And with that, we've covered the main points. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, consider sharing it on social media, and with that, we're out.